and welcome to CrimeDivers. I'm Laura.
And I'm Jill.
And welcome to today's episode.
Hello everybody, welcome back. And just before we start, I would like to say that I may be speaking a bit louder today because Laura has blocked ears.
Yes, I must admit, I can hear you, but it's a bit muffled and it's just irritating me, to be quite honest. But I'm here, we're recording, we'll get on with it, I'll be alright. So if you hear me going, what?
Well, I'm usually quite a loudspeaker anyway, so
I should be okay.
yeah, hopefully you should be okay, but you know, I'm just warning anybody in case they need to turn their volume down because I'm speaking too loud.
Yeah, I hear you, it's just really irritating. It's in my ear, it's annoying. But
Okay,
anyway.
well, I'm moving a little bit closer to you, so...
Okay, thanks.
Are you alright?
I'm alright.
Right, you good to go?
I'm good to go.
Okay.
So, where in the world are we?
We're in the USA.
And the title?
Death Row for Lil Devil.
Death Row for Lil Devil?
Yeah.
Okay, so, interesting title. Shall we just dive in?
Yeah, I've got nothing to say about it. You'll get it.
Yes.
As we go on.
Let's dive in.
So let's dive in. So, Christa Gail Pike was born on the 10th of March 1976 in Durham, North Carolina, and she is currently the only female on Tennessee's death row.
Okay.
She committed murder in 1995 when she was 18 years old, and she was convicted when she was 20. So she was the youngest woman sentenced to death in the US since 1972. So growing up, she had a troubled childhood. Her dad wasn't in the picture, and her mum, Carissa, was an alcoholic and a drug user. Mm-hmm. And she would often be out partying rather than looking after her daughter. Mm-hmm. So Christa's grandmother brought her up until she was 12, but unfortunately she passed away. So Christa went to live with her mum, and she introduced Christa to marijuana when she was a teenager.
Oh, God.
Carissa said that one day Christa would be sweet and loving, but then be in trouble the next, and it was an ongoing battle with her. And I thought, well, what do you expect?
Well, I was just going to say, you've introduced your child to drugs and stuff, so, I mean,
And
you've not been there, and you're not really setting a good example for her, are you?
But not even, not even so much the not setting an example, just the fact that she hasn't been there for the first 12 years of her life, so obviously it's going to be a battle.
Yeah.
Because she's going to be like, well,
where have you been?
Where have you been? Yeah.
I've not got any respect for you.
Yeah, exactly. So Christa dropped out of high school, and shortly after she was arrested for shoplifting, and she was sentenced to a month in juvenile detention. When she got out, she was 18, and her mum encouraged her to leave her home in Durham, North Carolina, for Job Corps at the University of Tennessee in Knoxville. So of course I had to Google because I didn't know what Job Corps was.
No, me neither.
And Wikipedia says that Job Corps is a residential program administered by the United States Department of Labour that offers free education and vocational training to young men and women ages 16 to 24, and and there are a total of 121 campuses over the US. Right. So it's like a sort of you drop out of school and you can go and get your free education.
That's good.
So Christa wanted to be a nursing assistant, and the Job Corps could help her get the qualification that she needed. But unfortunately, she was more interested in a boy that she met there.
Oh dear. Recipe for disaster.
Yeah. So his name was Tadaro Ship, and he was a year younger than her, so he was 17. So he had dropped out of school in the 9th grade and went on to get involved with gang members. Mm-hmm. So his mother persuaded him to join the Job Corps, where he enrolled in the culinary arts program. Christa later said about Tadaro, quote, "Tadaro was respected if not feared. He protected me. He was probably the first man that I'd ever had in my life that wanted to protect me, that saw me as, a treasure, something good, instead of something to use and toss to the side," end quote. So it kind of shows what she thought of her childhood, kind of saying that.
Well,
but
she had no father figure and no...
yeah, but the fact that she said he was feared, that kind of rings, that's about, red flag.
Yeah, totally.
So Christa made friends with a girl called Shadola Peterson, but there was a girl that she didn't like, Colleen Slemmer. So Colleen Ann Slemmer was born on the 20th of September in 1975 in Jacksonville, Florida. She had grown up with her mum, May, who she was really close to, a sister and a stepdad, and her biological... her biological dad lived in another state. So Colleen had struggled in school as she had a learning disability and she dropped out. Mm-hmm. So after school she had 2 jobs, one in Wendy's and another in Taco Bell. But she wasn't happy. She wanted to do something more with her life. So when she was 19, she decided to move to Tennessee to join the Job Corps.
Mm-hmm.
So she wanted to complete her high school coursework, get her GED, which is basically, as far as I understand, an equivalent to the high school qualifications.
Right, okay.
And she wanted to study computing. I only know that from watching Teen Mum. Because I don't know if all of them did their GED, but I can remember one of them did, because she'd obviously dropped out to have her baby.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I was like, right, so she studied for her GED from home.
Right, okay.
But it's just the equivalent to your high school diploma.
Oh, right, cool.
So her mum was understandably worried about Colleen moving to another state, but Colleen was excited and told her mum it was only going to be for 6 months, so she really wanted to do it and she'd be home soon.
Yeah, good on her.
So she joined up, and that's where she met Christa, Tadaro and Shadola. So Christa and Tadaro stood out from the other students in the way that they dressed and their beliefs. Tadaro was a Satanist, and Christa became interested in that when she met him, kind of took on his beliefs and stuff. They both wore black clothes, had piercings, and wore symbols identifying them as Satanists.
Okay.
Tadaro had books on the occult, and he also had items that would be used in satanic rituals, and they both wore pentagram pendants, and Christa gave herself the nickname Lil Devil. How lame is that?
Lil Devil.
I'm sorry, but if you give yourself a nickname, that's just lame. That's really lame.
A little bit. But, each to their own.
I know, but if you're going to get a nickname, you should have earned that nickname from other people,
Because I wouldn't nickname myself. I mean, if I had a nickname, I would expect it to be because somebody else has called me it.
Exactly.
Not because I've been like, oh, I'm going to call myself whatever.
I'm just going to call myself that because I'm a total badass. That's just lame.
Yeah.
So Christa and Tadaro had a really toxic relationship.
Clearly.
I'm sure you probably
Obviously,
saw that coming.
Yeah.
They were inseparable, and Christa had an unhealthy attachment to Tadaro. She saw him as her protector and was really possessive of him. And he was controlling and manipulative towards her. So both had short tempers, and they would often fly off the handle. And sometimes their arguments even turned physical. But apparently they loved each other. They saw that as love. I think because they were so... What's the word? What's the word? Help me.
What, obsessed with each other? Or?
No, the fieriness, the...
Infatuated?
No, you're not helping, but
Similar?
that's so annoying.
Similar?
No, it's because they were so intense. And their feelings for each other that they would fly off the handle at each other. They saw that, their intense feelings, as love.
Right, okay.
That's not the word I was looking for.
Doesn't
matter.
What you're looking for.
So one day, another student bumped into Christa by accident and didn't apologise, so Tadaro grabbed him by the throat and shoved him against the wall and threatened him with a knife.
For goodness sake.
So he told the guy if he even breathed on Christa again, he would cut his throat. I mean, come on, a bit over the top.
A bit OTT.
Yeah, just a bit. So, but this in Christa's eyes proved to her that he would always protect her and he would never let anyone hurt her. Personally, I would be terrified if my boyfriend did that to someone, because if he could do that to another person, he could do that to me.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? But she saw that and as in, he's my protector. He will, so she thought this was amazing. Yeah. She thought she thought that that's what a boyfriend was supposed to do.
Right.
Your boyfriend, I think, protecting and all the rest of it, but not in a violent way, not like that.
Not like that.
So there's no way she letting go of this hero. That's what he was, a hero.
Right, okay.
As I said, Christa was very possessive over Tadaro, and she accused Colleen of having a crush on him, which she didn't. I don't know why she thought that, but Christa became strangely obsessed with her imaginary rival.
Right.
So she would go into Colleen's room when she was asleep, and Colleen would wake up and see Christa just standing over her.
Oh God. And
Christa would try and goad Colleen into physical fights, and she would start nasty rumours about her. She was just obsessed.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the word I was looking for. They had an obsession with each other, Tadaro and Christa. Maybe I don't know anyway. I'm not going back to that. It's going to annoy me though. Until I remember. Remember we were talking the other day about things that just bug you?
Yeah.
Until you remember it,
yeah.
That's going to bug me.
Okay.
But I'll shut up about it on the podcast.
Put it to one side.
Yeah, put it to one side for now. So Colleen had told her mum that she was really scared of Christa, and she didn't want to be there anymore. So that's how bad it was. She wanted to leave. She told her mum she wanted to go home. But her mum had said, well, you can't because you signed a contract. You know, you have to stay.
Yeah.
It's only for 6 months, so which is understandable.
I guess so, yeah.
So unfortunately, I've been in that situation actually with one of my kids when she was at cadet camp, and she phoned me, and she was only there for a week, but she phoned me and she's like, I want to come home, I hate it, and everything. I'm like, tough.
You're there.
Exactly. You're there. It's only a few more days, and you know, so I totally get that.
Because that's it. You just try to be optimistic, and you're not going to think that something bad's going to happen, are you? You're just going to be like, it's
I
okay.
know.
Like, you just have to get through it. You'll be fine.
I mean, it does sound, you know, obviously that situation was more intense than what mine was. Like with my daughter, it was just like, I actually can't remember why she wanted to come home. But obviously she didn't have people standing over her and, you know, all that kind of stuff. I don't think she was scared of anybody.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, totally understandable that her mum's like, come on, you know, it'll be fine. Just
try to, like, navigate her through it and just sort of say it'll be okay. And
exactly. She was only there for 6 months, and then that would take her on to the rest of her life, basically.
Like the long-term gain was obviously, hopefully, huge for her, so...
Yeah.
But I mean... Obviously, on the other hand, I can understand why she did want to come home, because
of course.
To be targeted like that, I'm assuming, on a daily basis possibly, then, and, you know, that could be quite not good. Well,
quite not good.
Quite good.
Yeah, she was scared, so, you know. But anyway, so, you know, she unfortunately, she just had to sort of carry on and hope that Christa would just leave her alone. So then on the 11th of January 1995, Christa told her friend Kim Olio that she planned to kill Colleen because, quote, she just felt mean that day.
Really?
Kim didn't take her seriously and was just like, yeah, whatever, you know, she's just talking shite, you know. You're feeling mean, you'll be fine tomorrow, you know. Yeah. But the following day, the 12th of January 1995, Colleen was surprised when Christa seemed to have had a change of heart. So she invited Colleen to go with her, Tadaro and Shadola to the video shop. She said that they could smoke some weed on the way there and they were going to rent out a movie for the night. So Colleen, probably thinking, at last, she's finally accepted that I've no interest in her boyfriend.
Yeah, she was what, a peaceful life.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, she knew how violent Christa and Tadaro could be. Well, Tadaro especially. So she probably thought it'd be best to keep on her good side. Yeah, I would think.
Yeah, totally.
Obviously, I don't know, but that's what I'm assuming. So she was like, right, okay. Unfortunately, though, Christa had other plans for Colleen. She later said, quote, I wanted to get her off campus and I had every intention of fighting her. So instead of going to the video shop, they headed towards Tyson Park, which was actually closed in the evening. So Christa knew that, like, nobody would be around. Christa had told Colleen that she had a bag of weed hidden in the park, so that's why they were going to go to the park for a smoke.
Yeah.
But as they headed towards a tunnel, Colleen started to get a bit suspicious, and she had said to Christa, you know, are we really going to smoke weed? You know, is that what's happening? And Christa just started yelling at her and, like, hitting her in the face.
Oh, wow.
So Colleen was fighting back, but she was saying to Christa, like, just stop hitting me, and we can talk about it. You know, like, why are you hitting me? Like, what's going on? Just stop and we can talk. But Christa didn't stop. She took a box cutter out of her pocket and she started slashing Colleen. She slashed her stomach, her hands, and her breast. Colleen tried to run away, but that just wound Christa up even more. And her and Tadaro knocked Colleen over and, like, dragged her back over the ground. And Christa started kicking her. They took off her top and her bra because they thought that would make Colleen less likely to try and run away. She was half naked. So then Christa continued the attack with a small meat cleaver.
Oh, God.
And she gave the box cutter to Tadaro to use on Colleen, and he cut a pentagram in Colleen's chest.
Wow, that's awful.
So Shadola, she kept to look out for, so she didn't have part in the physical attack, but she kept to look out for the next 45 minutes while Christa and Tadaro...
She's just as bad in my opinion.
Yeah. While Christa and Tadaro attacked Colleen, they would slash her, hit her, kick her, and then they would, like, let her get up, and she was, like, begging for her life. But then they would start again, so it was like sort of cat and mouse kind of thing. At one point she said, just let me go, I'll not say anything. Like she was like, I'll walk back to Florida. just, I won't tell anybody, just let me go. And they said, well, we can't do that. We've already done stuff to you. So, no, that's not going to happen. We're not letting you go. And every time Colleen spoke, Christa kicked her in the face. Like, she got more wound up. Every time she spoke, she got more wound up and kicked her in the face. So Colleen must have known there and then that she just wasn't going to be able to get away from them. They just kept attacking her, and they even slit her throat. And Christa said at one point, she was like, the bitch won't die. That was a quote. So that's what she said. The bitch won't die. And that's when she grabbed a large piece of asphalt. Is that what it's called? Asphalt?
Yes.
Do you know what that is?
Is that the...
It's like sort of concrete, like cement that they use on the road, yeah. I just don't know if that's how you pronounce it, asphalt. So she grabbed a large piece of asphalt that was nearby, and she hit Colleen 5 times in the head with it. And while she was hitting her, she said, I want to see her brains flow. And with all her strength, she hit her in the head, cracked her skull, and grey matter did spill out from Colleen's head.
That's awful.
She later said, quote, I knew exactly what I was doing. Everything that I did that night, I knew what I was doing, and I think I was taking things out on her that had happened to me years ago, end quote. That doesn't make it okay.
No, that definitely doesn't.
No, definitely not. So later that night, Christa... Oh, sorry, I missed a bit out. So once Colleen was dead, the 3 of them hid her body in the bushes and returned to campus. Christa returned the meat cleavers because she'd borrowed the meat cleaver. Because there was Tadaro, he had joined the culinary art, so there must have been people maybe had their own utensils for cooking.
Yeah.
So she'd actually borrowed the meat cleaver.
Right.
So she went and gave that back. Thanks.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, and I just thought, if that person knew what, because I'm assuming she must have cleaned it, if that person knew what had just happened with that meat cleaver, like, oh.
That's just awful.
I know, so she went and handed that back, and then they just all went to the rooms as if nothing had happened. Later that night, Christa went into her friend Kim's room, the one that she'd told that she was going to kill Colleen. And she told her that she'd killed Colleen, and she had brought back a piece of her skull as a souvenir, and she pulled it out of her pocket and she showed it to a totally shocked Kim.
Oh my God, that's sickening.
So she explained the attack in full detail to Kim. She was excited, and she told Kim how Colleen had begged for her life. She was giddy. She was like dancing around and like totally giddy about it.
If I was Kim, I'd be like, get out of my room because she did to me.
Well, Kim didn't report what Christa had told her. Whether she just didn't believe it or maybe she was scared. I mean, she showed her a bit of the skull, but how would she know that that was definitely a piece of somebody's skull?
Oh,
I mean,
yeah, exactly.
It's just like a bit, a tiny bit. She was maybe scared. Maybe she didn't believe her. I don't know. But she didn't report it. So the next morning, she saw Christa in the cafeteria. So she asked her what, she's like, well, what did you do with that bit of Colleen's skull? And Christa said it was in her pocket. And she said, quote, yeah, I'm eating breakfast with it.
She's just a bit of a psychopath.
So later that morning in class, Christa told another friend, Stephanie Wilson, about the murder. So she pointed to her shoes that had brown stains on them and said, that's blood on my shoes. So she then showed Stephanie the piece of Colleen's skull and told Stephanie that her blood and brain matter had been pouring out. Like him, Stephanie didn't know what to think, and neither girl reported it. So that morning at 8:05 a.m, Colleen's body had actually been found. So it didn't take long. So by the time the girls in the morning didn't report it, the body had already been found.
Yeah.
So her face was so badly mutilated that it didn't even look human. That's what one of the officers said.
Oh, no. That's awful.
I know. The autopsy revealed that Colleen had suffered so many cuts and slashes to her torso that the medical examiner had to catalogue only the most serious ones. There were just too many. Yeah. As well as slashing wounds to her face, back, arms and abdomen, she also had defensive wounds on her right arm, bruising on her knees, which were consistent with crawling. So obviously she was fighting back, trying to get away. She had 11 slash injuries to her throat and a gaping wound that was 6 inches long.
Wow.
The cause of death was blunt force injuries to the head, resulting in multiple and extensive skull fractures, and bits of asphalt particles were found in Colleen's skull, so they could so they could see that had been used as the murder weapon. So she was identified through dental records, and police straight away started questioning her classmates and the staff at the Job Corps Centre. And it didn't take them long to find out that Christa Pike had been bragging about killing Colleen.
Yeah.
So when she was given her rights upon arrest, she waived those, and she gave them a full and detailed confession. So she waived her right to silence, she just gave them a confession.
Right.
Of course, she placed the blame on Colleen, and made out that she provoked her.
I don't think any kind of provoking warrants that, though.
No, of course not.
I mean, we know we shouldn't provoke her, but even if she had,
it
now doesn't excuse that kind of
not in the slightest
behaviour towards somebody. No.
So she told the police that one night she had woken up and was terrified to see Colleen standing over her holding a boxcar. She went on to say that she never planned on killing Colleen. She just wanted to fight her so that she would leave her alone. So she's turned the tables that it was Colleen that was bullying her, you know, whereas it was the other way around. So she then said that during the fight, she heard voices telling her to kill Colleen so that Colleen couldn't report her for attempted murder. She said later, quote, "I was the first one they arrested, the first one they interviewed, and I thought if I went in there and told him that I did every single thing that had happened up there, that Tadaro and Shadola would just walk out of there and they wouldn't worry about them anymore because they had the real killer," end quote. And when you actually see her, because obviously Christa's talking from prison, she's very animated and sort of what you would expect like a theatre kid to be like, you know, when they're talking, like very expressive and
was she like
sort of performing, like a bit acty.
Was she like proud of what she did?
Yeah, she's not bothered.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was like she was putting on an act, like she was happy about it, she was proud of herself. It was very disturbing to watch. So when Christa was seen by a psychiatrist, they had the opinion that she had all the profile of being a serial killer, but she got caught her first time. So if she hadn't got caught her first time, she would have went on.
Thinking, like, what about you know, like who else? You know, like Kim. What was the other girl's name?
Stephanie, the one that she confessed to.
Yeah, you know, like they could have been thinking, oh my god, what if I'm next? Or you know, the girl that was doing Lookout. I mean, what made Shadola, what made her think that she was safe from that? Because what's to say that she wouldn't have turned on her next?
Yeah,
you know? I mean,
I do think that's probably a big reason why the girls never reported it. I think because they were so scared that they could be next.
Exactly.
And from what the psychiatrist said, well, they could have been right. They could have been next, you know, or well.
Now that one rival, as she called her, is out of the way, then she might turn to think somebody else has like got a crush on Tadaro.
I know it's scary. So it's just as well. I mean, it's horrendous that she did that. She murdered anybody, but at least she got caught the first time and couldn't go on to hurt anybody else. Exactly. So a few days after Christa had been arrested, a guy called Robert Pollock contacted the police. He worked at the Job Corps as an orientation specialist, and when he went into his office after he'd had the long weekend off, he'd been off the Monday as well. So like Saturday, the murder had been on the Friday, I think, and then he was off Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So he went in his office on the Tuesday morning, and he saw that Christa had left her jacket the previous Friday afternoon. So they must have had a meeting or something, and she'd left her jacket in his office. So the police arrived to take it for further investigation, and they found a small piece of bone in one of the pockets. So this was sent to the forensic anthropologist at Tennessee University, and he worked together with a medical examiner to reconstruct Colleen's skull, and the fragment taken from Christa's jacket matched the missing piece. So she had taken a bit of her skull.
Disgusting, man.
So even though Christa had tried to protect Tadaro and Shadola, thanks to forensic evidence, it was clear that Tadaro was heavily involved in the attack. Shadola was identified as an accomplice because the dorms had a logbook, and it showed that Christa, Tadaro, Shadola and Colleen had all lived together, but only 3 of them returned. So it was obviously she was there.
Yeah, she was definitely there.
Yeah. So on the 22nd of March 1996, which was 14 months after the murder, Christa was on trial for murder and conspiracy to commit murder. The trial was huge. The DA was running for office at the time, so the media was all, it was a big, massive thing. Yeah. And it looked like Christa was loving the attention. She was laughing and joking in court. She was sending notes to her mum and to her lawyer, like finding the whole thing funny. But when her 45-minute confession was played in court, she turned the tears on. But it took 12 men and women of the jury less than 3 hours to make their decision, and she was found guilty. So the state of Tennessee hadn't executed a woman since 1837.
Oh, wow.
But the district attorney was convinced that he could get a death sentence for Christa, and he did.
Right.
So she was sentenced to death by electrocution for the murder charge and 25 years in prison for the conspiracy to murder charge. So, of course, she cried again. And she was heard saying, "Oh, shit," as she walked out the courtroom door. I don't know what she was expecting, but she was like, "Oh, shit." So the next day, prison guards intercepted a letter that Christa wrote to Daryl, and it said, quote, "Please write me. I miss you so much. You see what I get for trying to be nice to that hoe? I went ahead and bashed her brains out so that she'd die quickly instead of letting her bleed to death and suffer more. And they fucking fry me. Ain't that some shit? Please write me and tell me how you're feeling. Also, tell your lawyer if he wants me to testify for you, I will. Love you for the rest of my life." And it was signed Lil Devil. So she thought that she did Colleen a favour by killing her quickly.
No. A favour would have been
just leaving her alone.
Don't even touch her.
Yeah.
Like, don't even attack her. Would have been doing her a favour.
Yeah. So Christa later said, quote, "I think I do deserve to be in here for the rest of my life. I do. I know I do. I know I don't deserve to be out walking around with everyone else in normal society. I did do something horrible that is unacceptable, and I realise that. But I don't deserve to die for the actions of 3 individuals when I'm only one person." So she's changed her tune now that she was taking all the blame, but now she's blaming the other 2. So Tadaro was also convicted, and he was sentenced to life in prison. As he was 17, he was too young for the death sentence. So if he'd been, because she was 18, if he'd been older,
he might have got that as well.
He probably would have got the death sentence as well. So he'll be eligible for parole in 2028 when he is 48.
Oh, wow. So not that long away then, 5 years' time.
2028, yeah. Well, was it, 1995 it happened, so...
That was a while ago,
Yeah, so Shadola, she turned state's evidence in exchange for her testimony against Christa and Daryl. She was allowed to plead guilty to accessory after the fact, and she was sentenced to 6 years probation, so she didn't even get any jail time, which...
I mean,
we can't... what do you call it? The...
justice system.
Yeah, the justices, that's none of our business. Like, we can't say what they should and shouldn't get, which we do have our opinions on, but I think, she didn't do anything physical, but she knew. I don't know if she actually knew what the plans were, right from the start.
But she allowed them to continue.
But yeah, she could have... I can understand that she wouldn't have intervened because they had weapons.
Yeah.
They more than likely would have turned her, but she could have ran away.
Yeah.
And got help.
Yeah.
She could have tried.
Yeah, exactly.
And she didn't report afterwards either.
No.
So
she's still definitely to blame for a part of it.
Obviously
not
definitely.
as severe as the other 2, but she's definitely. So I mean.
But I think 6 years probation. I don't know. I think maybe she should have got something a bit.
Maybe.
But
I was actually just to go back to the death sentence being by
electrocution.
I for some reason in my head I was thinking that just seems like that doesn't exist anymore. I thought it was just like a lethal injection, but
when I think of the
I can't even say the word.
I can't even say the word. It makes me think of the Green Mile.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I feel like that's more olden day execution style than it is now, because I thought it was more always like a lethal injection.
You would think, because surely that's easier.
Well,
I mean, did you see what happened in the Green Mile when he didn't put the sponge thing in his head? And
yeah, but that was obviously for a film.
That could be real though.
I know.
It could have happened.
I just didn't think that would still be the way they did it.
Well, I didn't think so either, because I would have thought just an injection would be the quickest, easiest thing to do.
Yeah.
But anyway, where was Christa made appeals, and then she cancelled, then she tried again, and in 2001, 5 years later, Christa had a run-in with another convicted murderer, Patricia Jones. Christa said that Patricia had been torturing her for about 4 years. She used to call Christa fried chicken. Because obviously she...
Oh, right, because she was going to get electrocuted.
And she would make zzz noises at her, saying that's how she was going to sound when they fried her in the electric chair. I mean, I shouldn't be laughing.
I know.
But I just think... the way that Christa was over dramatic about it, and she was like, she'd been torturing me for 4 years because she called me fried chicken and she made zzz noises at me. That's been tortured. Yeah. Sorry, you should know what torture means because you did it to somebody else.
Exactly, that's it. You're like,
so that's why I'm laughing. It's just,
yeah, no, I get it.
Might be bad taste, but
yeah.
She deserves it.
Totally.
But yeah, I thought that was a bit over dramatic. Anyway, so Patricia, she was serving life for killing an 84-year-old woman, and she threatened Christa's friend, Natasha Cornett. And Natasha, she was serving 3 life sentences for kidnapping and murder of a couple and their 6-year-old child.
Oh, what a lovely bunch of friends.
I know, well, they're obviously on the same thing, aren't they? So Patricia jumped on Natasha, I don't know why, but she jumped on her and she was attacking her. So Christa jumped on Patricia and she choked her with a shoestring that she just happened to have. Patricia was unconscious when the prison guards pulled Christa off her, so it was a bit more than just helping her friend.
Yes.
Or self-defence. And Christa was convicted of attempted first-degree murder.
Oh, for fuck's sake. I mean, quite right, I suppose.
I don't know why she had a shoestring. She shouldn't have had that.
No.
But
you know how prisoners, they always get a hold of things they shouldn't have.
But to me, that's if you're carrying about a weapon, then...
Yeah, you're obviously waiting for an opportunity to do something.
Yeah. So, sorry. She made a phone call to her mum a few days after the attempted murder, and she laughingly told her, quote, "I wrapped that shoestring around her and tried to choke the life out of her. She was passed out on the ground, mama, twitching, foaming at the mouth. Her eyeballs was bugged out so far, her eyelids were flipped up."
Her mother was so proud of that.
Imagine telling your mother that, because her mother was on a documentary that I watched, and her mother is totally... She's not defending her. She's standing by her, but she's not defending her. Which, but I just thought, for Christa to tell her mum that, surely her mum... She must feel like she can speak to her mum like that. I mean, I would never... Well, also we've got different parents, but I would never think to tell my mum, to brag like something like that to my mum.
No.
Who's not a criminal, you know what I mean? Like, I could understand her bragging to other criminals.
Aye, because that's the thing they do, don't they?
Yeah, but to her mum, I find that very strange. So after the attack on Patricia, Christa asked for the legal right to end her appeals and to proceed with her execution.
Alright.
She said, quote, "I could be in general population and help people and be productive or whatever and have that life, but I would not be living. That would be a dreadful existence for me." End quote. So it would be dreadful for her to be a law-abiding citizen, basically.
Right, okay.
So at least she knows what she is.
Yeah, I
suppose that's something. So of course her lawyers questioned whether she knew what she was doing, and they asked the court to let Christa have some time to reconsider. But for 4 months, Christa was insistent... Not for 4 months, sorry, just for months. For a few months. Christa was insistent that's what she wanted. So in June 2002, the judge let her drop her appeal, and her execution date was set for the 19th of August that year, so that was 2002. And Christa apparently wept tears of joy while she thanked the judge.
Right.
But within days, she changed her mind. So her lawyers filed a motion just in time, and the Court of Appeals stayed her execution with less than 3 weeks to go.
Right.
So for the next 3 years, motions and appeals went back and forth, and finally in October 2005, Christa's death sentence was affirmed by the court. However, no date of execution has been set.
Right.
So it's definitely, that's it, she's been sentenced to death, but it's not been set yet, the date. So in 2012, it was revealed that Christa had plans to escape prison.
Right.
So there was a guy called Donald Kohut, and he was a personal trainer in his early 30s, and he had started writing to Christa in 2011, so they were like pen pals, writing back and forth.
Wow.
What?
Why though?
People do it though. They write to people in prison. It's a thing.
I actually have.
What? You're writing to somebody in prison? Why? And who? And when?
Well, I'll tell you if you let me. Well, I obviously went to college.
Not for anything to do with criminal stuff.
I know, but listen.
Sorry. I'm just shocked.
But I was at college with convicted murderers who had been in prison for like over 10 years, and they were on like sort of day release, and they were allowed to sort of rehabilitate themselves by going to college.
Okay.
So obviously there was a couple of guys in the class. I mean, you know, they were nice guys. We didn't know at the time. Well, at first, sorry. So we got chatting to them and stuff, and then.
So you didn't know straight off, right off the bat.
No. Right. But then eventually, obviously, I can't exactly remember how, but it was known that these couple of these guys, because we had one in our class, and then he had like friends that were in other classes that they were all prisoners, and they were in like, I think they must have been in a Glasgow jail, because they used to get the train. Oh no, they were in Edinburgh. I can't remember anyway. No, sorry, they were from Glasgow, but they were in Edinburgh jail.
Was it in Stockton?
They were at Stockton, yeah. And one of them just said, "Oh, would you like to write to my friend that's in prison?" And I was like, and I must have, I can't remember the specifics, but I was like, all right, okay. Yeah. So we did.
She was young.
So I did. I mean, yeah, I was only 16 at the time. So yeah, I mean, it must have been like less than 5 letters back and forth where we wrote for a few times. And
so was he a murderer that you wrote to?
Yeah, he told me why he was in prison. He said that he'd murdered his best friend, because he had been like really drunk, I think, one night, and I think he'd been a bit depressed or something like that, and for some reason his friend was there and things got out of hand, and I think he took out his anger or whatever on his friend, and he totally regretted it. Obviously he was totally remorseful about it, or can't believe he did it, blah blah blah, and I was like, alright, okay. And then we had this like normal conversation about like what he liked, the sort of interests I had, but I mean it literally lasted like a few letters backwards and forwards, and that was it.
How did I not know that?
I don't know. I mean, I'm surprised I didn't tell. Sure
did our parents know that?
Probably
that you were
not.
writing to a murderer? Did they not see letters coming from HMP Stockton?
Possibly, but yeah, I mean, I did get them delivered to the house, so yeah.
I'm going to have to ask Mum next time I speak to her if she knows anything about this.
Unless I got them handed to and from the guy that I went to college with. I don't know if I got him to pass the letters over. I honestly can't remember the ins and outs, but I just remember having a little bit of communication between this guy.
How old was he?
20s.
Right. So not that much older than you then?
No, because the guys that I was in with, they were sort of like in their 20s. I think the guy, I remember his name was Stephen, and he must have, I think he was about maybe like late 20s, and he'd been in prison for 10 years.
Right.
And then there was another guy, Terry, I remember in another class, but I don't remember what the guy who I wrote to his name was. I know, really strangely.
Obviously it didn't make a big impression on you then.
No, it didn't. It was just one of those things, and I just was like, nah, I'm not writing to you again, that was it. I mean, but then, to be fair, I did actually drop out of college, so it could have been partly because of that. I don't really remember it. Let's say it was 20 years ago. So but yeah, there's my experience of it. So I
can't believe I didn't know that. Why did
I feel like I would have told you but maybe I didn't. I don't know. But I did. Yeah.
I don't know if you would have told me at the time, because if you were 16, I mean, yeah, we were close when you were 16, but maybe you were scared in case
I don't know.
I had a go at you if I didn't approve of it, which I probably wouldn't have, and I probably would have told you, no, stop.
I don't really remember. Like I said, I remember doing it, and I remember being at college with, but I mean, I was literally only at college for 3-4 months, so I mean it was a very short period of time, so it wasn't like I it was very, because I obviously when I was at college I wasn't really into it. I had started working at that point, and I just
Laura wanted the money more than she wanted the education.
Yeah, so I didn't really last at college too long, to be fair, but yeah.
Oh well.
So there you go. There's my experience of doing it,
and I've just learned something new about my sister.
There you go.
Right. So yeah, so they were writing back and forth. And after a few months, he started visiting her once or twice a month. And they hatched a plan for her to escape. And he enlisted the help of corrections officer Justin Heflin, who agreed to help in return for cash and gifts.
All right.
So because of security concerns, the Tennessee Department of Corrections hasn't provided many details about the plan, because obviously they found out.
Yeah.
But apparently a duplicate was going to be made of prison keys.
Oh, right, okay.
I'm sure that happened on Bad Girls. I'm sure they did it with soap or something.
Right, okay.
Anyway, somehow the prison found out, and Donald was arrested and charged with bribery and conspiracy to commit escape, and Justin was arrested and charged with bribery, official misconduct, and conspiracy to commit escape. Christa wasn't charged, as it was unclear to the investigators if she was a participant in the conspiracy other than being aware of it. Yeah. So like they knew that she knew about it, but
right. Oh.
I think she had enough anyway. I mean...
Well, what more could they really give her?
Yeah.
I mean...
So on the 27th of August 2020, the Tennessee Attorney General's office requested the Supreme Court to set an execution date for Christa. Due to COVID and various other factors, her attorneys were granted extensions by the court, allowing them more time to argue as to why Christa shouldn't be executed. But on the 7th of June 2021, her attorneys filed a motion to oppose the execution date and request a certificate of commutation, I think that's, which means a reduced sentence. So they're trying to get a reduced sentence
offer. Yeah.
So Wikipedia says that the court is expected to decide on the matter as to whether Christa can be executed or if her sentence will be reduced.
Right.
If she is executed, she will be the first woman to be executed in Tennessee in roughly 200 years. So I looked to see if there were any other updates online, but the most recent articles are from 2021, which is on Wikipedia anyway, so they mustn't have made a decision yet. So she still is going to get executed.
Still baffles me though, how like you sentence someone to death, but yet they can be on death row for 10, 20,
like, what's the point?
30 years. Like, yeah, what is the point in that sentence? Like, if it's not going to be done fairly soon after, then why sentence them to that? Like, why not just give them life without parole or something?
But it is good though, because at least they're still getting punished. So they're not, because to me, I've always said, you know, like, somebody getting put to death is not a punishment, because like I think they should be made to suffer. So at least they get the jail sentence before the prison sentence before they die, I suppose.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, I mean, so yeah. So if she ever does it get executed, I'll update you.
Yeah, cool. Thanks.
So thank you to everybody for listening, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time. Bye.
If you would like to follow us on Instagram, Twitter or Threads, we are crime_divers_pod. We are on Facebook, TikTok and YouTube, and it's Crime Divers Podcast. Our email is crime_divers_pod@outlook.com. Our website is crimedivers.co.uk. If you would like to join our Patreon, it's patreon.com/crimedivers. And if you would like to buy us a coffee, it's buymeacoffee.com/crimedivers.
And if you haven't already, please don't forget to subscribe, rate, review.